All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Two Buddies Creators Corner. Happy to be here with these amazing people. Hey, everyone. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Awesome. Yeah.
Good, doing really well. Doing really well. Awesome. Sounds good. Well, why don't we get into some introductions? I don't think you guys need to be introducing yourselves. I think everyone here will know all of you, but why don't we go? Let's go ladies first, counterclockwise. So Grace,
oh my gosh.
Yes. Who are you, your live show, and where you're going live, and where you're based out of? How about we do those three questions?
Perfect. I am Grace Duffy. I produce and co-host the social media marketing talk show for Social Media Examiner. We currently go live on Facebook, YouTube, and then on LinkedIn. I am personally based in Dallas, Texas, or just north of Dallas, Texas.
Awesome. Thanks, Grace. All right, Sir Ian.
Did you just call me Sir Ian?
Yeah.
Like Sir Ian. Well, yeah, as you can probably tell from my accent, I live in the UK, just south of Manchester. My live show is the Confident Live Marketing Show, and I broadcast to a plethora of different channels. So basically Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, any channel that I can basically broadcast to, because I love doing that kind of thing. And was that it? I can't remember if there were any other questions you wanted me to ask.
No, that's it.
Well, yeah.
I think you answered it all. That's awesome. Thanks, Ian. All right. And we got Jeff up here. Jeff.
Yeah, I'm Jeff Sieh. I'm also a co-host with Grace at the Social Media Marketing Talk Show. I also produce Kim Garst's weekly show on her channel, and also the host, along with Elisa Meredith, for Tailwind's show that we do bi-weekly over on Tailwind. And we go live, I believe, everywhere when we do that. So, yeah, and also produce Guy Kawasaki's podcast. So it's been a long day.
Man.
And he did it all today.
All today. It feels like
all
it.
today. Yeah. It's all happening today.
That's all today, before lunch, probably.
Yep.
Man, awesome. Okay, well, I'm really excited for the three of you to be joining me. You guys are all doing amazing things with live streaming. And so this episode is all about live shows and how to grow, maybe even start a live show. So you guys have tons of experience in that. So I'm excited to pick your brain. I want to welcome everyone that's joining us live. We've got Linda Ray and Trevor. We got J-Bay Media. We got people from LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. So this is always a conversation. So please drop your questions for these amazing experts in the chat, and I'll make sure that I ask them. All right. So my first question is, tell us a little bit of maybe give us a bit of an elevator pitch about your show, like who's tuning in, who are you guys looking to target with your show, and kind of what the goal is with your live shows. So whoever wants to go first, and then you pass the baton to whoever you want to go next.
Well, I'll do a twosie since Jeff and I both co-host the Social Media Marketing Talk Show. So as our intro states, we are your go-to source for breaking social media news, the news that you absolutely need if you are a social media marketer. We focus on social media trends, best practices, new tools, policies, products from Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, you name it. We cover it. And so it's a very news-focused show. It is, again, for social media marketers, but I like to think anyone can tune in. It's a pretty fun show. I love co-hosting it every week with Jeff. Awesome.
There you go. And Ian, how about you?
Well, so yeah, my show is the Confident Live Marketing Show. I've been doing it now. I'm on to episode 81, which I can't quite believe. After years of procrastinating and putting it off, I did this, and that's what basically we talk on the show about the fears of whether it's the mindset or getting in front of the camera, or whether it's with the tech and the gear, or with the content marketing sphere. You see what I did there? All rhymed. And it's really for established entrepreneurs. Mainly in the UK, North America, and Europe, and it's for established entrepreneurs who want to level up their impacts, authorities, and profits through the power of Confident Live Video. Nice.
There you go. And how about Jeff? Jeff, how about what do you guys do with Kim's show and even like Guy Kawasaki's show? Like a little bit of backstory on that.
Yeah, so all my contacts started back, because I'm old, back in the Google Plus days, and so we did. I met Guy back through there, and we kind of got on the the forefront of live video back in the, that was the Wild West when that was the only game in town was like Google Hangouts. We did all these Google Hangout shows. So that's where I met Kim and Guy and all those people. And so I guess this might be interesting because we have a lot of people watching who are interested in live video, and we're doing a new strategy over with Kim right now. So all week we've been doing what we call a Pinterest Palooza, where we're talking all about Pinterest. We got all these guests in. We're doing all these free lives, which is moving them to a 5-day challenge, which is next week, which is also live, but we're teaching more in that. But we're using our live videos to like move people along a sales funnel. And so this kind of experiment that Kim and I are doing, but so far it's gone really, really well. We've got some really cool things, and we're moving them all to this, like Rob pulled up on the screen, this Pin to Profit challenge, which is this 5-day challenge, which, of course, we'll be moving to a course after that. But it's really, live video has just changed the way you can even do sales funnels. So that's what I'm excited about now. That's kind of and Kim's actually, I'm getting off the show, going right to Tailwind show where she's being on. So all these universes are colliding together. So it's like, we're going to go back in time or something. I don't know.
No, I love it. I love it. You're a busy man. You're a busy man. That's great. I want to talk about that as well in just a second. Like, what are you guys actually how are you monetizing your live shows and stuff like that? But I want to ask you first, because there's a lot of people in the audience here that are wondering, and this is what they came here for, is how are you actively growing like the viewership for your live shows? I think that's an interesting thing. I know for us, we're trying to be consistent. We try to be consistent, even just the dates, but also the days of the week, but also the time of the day, and testing that out because we have a global audience, which can make it tricky. You don't want to, So I'm just curious. For you guys, how are you guys trying to, what are you doing to actively grow your live show in terms of viewership?
I 100% agree with consistency. We go live every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. And it is every Friday. Well, sometimes we do take a break, right? But we tell people, but it is consistently every Friday and growing that. We broadcast live and we engage the audience, actively engage the audience, but then we also distribute the live show as a podcast. And so that expands its reach. Where, if you're a podcast listener, you have an opportunity to go see it as a live show. If you're a live show person and you missed it, you have an opportunity to listen to it as a podcast. And so I think diversifying and reaching different audiences is one of our tactics for growing our audience.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how about you, Ian? What are you doing to grow your live show actively each and every week?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm just trying to get over Linda Ray and Trevor's comment. He says Google Plus. I'm so glad I didn't put a lot of effort into that. And I'm still like crying my eyes out at Google Plus because it's really sad. That's how we all met. Many of us in this space. But yeah, to answer the question, I mean, absolutely, consistency is totally key. I knew that I needed to do this every single week, and otherwise I wouldn't grow the audience. And at the start, just to encourage people. If you're starting, it is hard. You've got to be in this for the long haul, but you've got to also tweak. So the timing is really, really important. I go live twice a week with my show. I do it 11:30 a.m. in the UK, so I can reach the UK audience, Europe and Australia. And then I do 4:30 p.m. in the UK on Thursday, so I can reach my American audience. So that's about 8:30 a.m. Pacific. So I can manage to do that. That's really important, but there's just lots of other things. There's lots of tiny things that you can do to grow your show. There's like Facebook advertising. There's organic social. You can even dive into the world of Facebook Messenger bots, which I'm relatively new to. I've been putting that off for ages. And then I thought, yeah, I've got to do it. Building community is so important. I'm a big believer in community, having guests on the show, repurposing, so many things there.
Love it. I love that. And how about you, Jeff? I remember going on and joining Kim Garst's show, and then you produced that. There were like literally hundreds of people there. So, what are you guys doing? What's kind of the thing that you guys are doing, even during the live stream itself, to help grow the viewership?
So there's a couple of things I think, we talked about being consistent, but also the importance of community. So everything from almost all the live shows that I help produce or am part of, community is the biggest thing. So I think one of the things, if you're starting a live show or wanting to grow your show, is make it about the audience or the guest that comes on. So like when I see somebody who I know shows up every every time to my show. Like, I could give you a name right now. Sally Howe shows up to both the Kim Garst show and also over on the Tailwind show. She is a super fan, and I will call her out as much as possible. Say, what did she think? She has a question, I'll bring that up. I'm making it about community because people want that community, and it's not about me or my ego or anything like that. It's always directed back to the audience and the people who are watching it. A guy you guys need to watch, and you need to have him on the show, Rob, is Lou Mongello, and I use him as a model for building community. He has done an amazing thing with WDW Radio. It's Walt Disney World Radio. He's one of the old school podcasters, but they can't go to Disney right now. A lot of them, Disneyland and World is shut down, but he's got these people on fire and they talk about it. He's got hundreds of people watching his live shows, and he's just amazing. And he's a model for community that I aspire to be, because he does such a great job of just caring about the people who watch his show. And I think that care really shines through. I mean, even on Ian's show and with Grace and I, we try to do that. But when you can really care about your audience and make it about them and not you, I think it makes the world of difference and will grow your show, like crazy.
Awesome. I love that. And speaking of Disney, we got Dole Whip Dad here, who creates all Disney content. So he says he loves Lou. Now I like you, Jeff. There you go. Awesome. Great. So, okay, I like that. Community is very important. I definitely agree. I think, especially on YouTube, a lot of people look at YouTube as like this place where it's not really a social channel. It's not really a place to build community because there's no like groups or anything like that. But, whenever we go live, there's always a lot of people that are tuning in regularly and, you get to know them really well. So yeah, focusing on community, I think that's really great. Awesome. So now let's talk about the actual show itself. I get to be a guest on a lot of different shows, and every host kind of has their own like little fun twist. What are some of the things that you guys are doing to give your audience sort of like a unique or elevated experience when they tune into your show? Like, are you guys? I know some people do like sort of like 20 questions kind of thing, and other different fun things. So, anything that you guys are doing with your shows?
Well, Jeff and I have started doing like a pre-show when we have time, when our guest is able to come in and join us and we've worked through all the issues. We do a pre-show and Jeff always comes up with a fun question. What was it the one you had last week, Jeff? It was, I don't know. Anyway, he thinks these up at the last minute and they always draw. And then we've also, when we, if our show tends to run a little shorter, we're good on time. We end up doing like a post show where we will continue to answer questions. During the show, we also bring up questions. So the service that we use, it allows us to bring up the question, has their name, it has their profile, it has their, whatever their question is, and then we address it on the spot. And we just like to call out people and say, hey, that was a really great question, or, building on that. So that's how we have been doing to help people feel like it's not a monologue, it's a dialogue.
That's right. That's important. Awesome. Yeah. Speaking of that, I see Mary Fane Brandt here saying, "Hey, Grace," and then we also see Scott Ayers here and Dot Lung. Awesome. How about you guys, Ian, Jeff? What are you guys doing with your shows? I know you guys got some you guys have a run a show, for example, so that you can kind of plan things out. But what are you guys doing inside the show?
Yeah, I think planning is really important. If you don't have a plan, you're gonna have big issues. And I'm a big believer in repurposing my content as well. So my live show becomes a blog post and a podcast. And I have a lot of fun with the podcast element. So I need to probably put a little bit more fun into the show. But with the podcast, I always sing a little song at the beginning because my background is I trained as a professional singer. So I always compose a little silly song for the guest at the beginning of that. And that's a lot of fun. So that's good. And obviously building community, involving your audience, all those kind of things is really important. And then the other thing is just making sure that you manage the comments. There's a lot of things going on with a live show. You've got to split your brain into two. You've got the people from the future, the replay audience. So you've got to think about them. You don't want to, but you also want to think about the live people. So you want to call them out by name. Exactly what Jeff was saying, build the community. But you don't want to do that too much because that's going to be boring for the people in the future and also not great for the podcast listeners if you're going to repurpose it. So it's all about, I think, structuring the show to make it fun, and within that, build some flexibility is really important. And that comes with practice. Very good.
I like that. Okay, cool. Well, these are some really good best practices. We got some questions. Please keep sending the questions in. We're going to get into Q&A really, really quickly. But before we do, I want to ask you guys some of the mistakes. I'm sure you guys see a lot of live streams happening right now on everywhere, like Facebook, YouTube. What are some of the mistakes that you guys are seeing? What are some of the things that you wish you could be like when you're watching? You're like, stop that right now. So what are some of those mistakes that you guys are seeing out there?
Well, I guess for me, the biggest thing, and I see a lot of new people do this, and it's bringing the show back to you. And so, like I said before, for the show, for me, it's always about the guest and about the audience. So you can see a lot of people who are starting shows or doing shows sometimes is they're not really listening to what their guest is saying. They're waiting to talk about themselves again. And you can see that, like you'll ask a question like what you just asked us, like, how do we make a live show more fun? And as the host, you would listen and you go, yeah. And so what I do is da 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 da. And so that really, a lot of people do that. And it's just not my style, because I want to provide value from the host. It's not about me, but and it's very obvious that people are wanting to turn it around to talk about them. So what I suggest is like really make it about you. I mean, have one of the things that I did when I first started is and I still do this to the day. I have 10 questions that I have for every show, because sometimes you don't get questions. And if you're relying on that, that can be a bad thing. So have 10 questions, stick to those, and don't make them about you. You can call it back if you have like a sale you know what I'm talking about, but don't always make it flip around to make the show to show how great you are. You want to, the guests are coming and spending their time with you. They're providing their expertise. You want to make it about them. Give them a chance to shout out where you can find them at and all that kind of stuff, like you did at the very beginning, Rob. I mean, that's awesome. So that would be my biggest piece of advice.
Love that.
Yeah. Can I just say that is such an important point that Jeff made, but it is really hard. I think you need to be trained. You need to teach yourself to do it. It's all to do with listening. I went on a marriage course years ago with my wife, after we got married. And one of the things they taught in that was listening, actually listen. If you have an argument, you need to listen to the other person and then read it back. Because what we often do is bring it back to ourselves. And so it's almost like, imagine it's like, a marriage between you and your audience or you and your guest. To make it about them first. And it is hard. It just takes time.
It does. Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Grace? What's a pet peeve out there when you're seeing, people? Yeah, it's like, stop. Yeah. What's your pet peeve out there?
No, I'm going to tell you that this is something that I am actively working on, because I'm a chatty person and I just go on and on. But I really think that as a live video host, you have to learn how to speak succinctly and get to the point and keep paying off on whatever it is that brought people to your broadcast, right? So whatever's in the title, that's what you need to be coming back to. And I was watching a live video yesterday, actually, and it was a little bit of a personal rant. So it was a little emotional, and it was a little bit like going all over the place, and you get that, right? But if this was a replay, I'd probably be looking at the timer being like, well, how long is this? How long is this going? And I think that, as you're talking, you have to realize that like you need to be giving a payoff at the 30 seconds, the 15 seconds, the whatever that is. And so that you earn the next 3 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 60 seconds. Right. So, again, being succinct.
Being succinct. Yeah, absolutely. I do that still. I mean, I do that a lot. Right now I'm doing that. So I'm going to stop talking. So I'm just going to get into some questions here. We've got a question from Linda Ray, and she's saying, this may be premature, but what's the opinion of broadcasting to multiple channels? We have a tiny reach, but we reach different people on different channels. What's your thoughts on multi-streaming in general? Is it good? Is it bad? Does it have its place? Thoughts?
I think it's fantastic. I mean, we use tools, like for instance, we use StreamYard on our show, and just like on Restream here, Restream.io, it brings in all the comments. And so I'm not having to monitor. Back when we were on another tool, we had to monitor each of the channels individually or have someone on our team monitor it. And now it's all in one chat, and it makes it easy to manage it. So I think finding the right tools to help you do that is fantastic. I do, at the end of the show, always go back and answer questions. Like a lot of times people ask random questions, but they still come to you, right? So I try to send them a link. I try to send them, what was it that you're talking about? Here's that link. Here's that. So it does take some time, with the community management part. We have this fantastic team at our company that helps us with that or does that for us, right? So I think that's a big part of it. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, multi-streaming is good. So Grace, thumbs up on multi-streaming. How about you guys? Jeff, Ian, thoughts on multi-streaming? When is it good? When is it bad?
Well, I think if you were to have asked that question 2 years ago, it would have been a different answer, because in those days it was more difficult to do, and also you had the fragmentation of the audience. There weren't really very many tools out there that would, in fact, there weren't any tools out there that would allow you to view all the comments from all those different channels. So unless you were like the Matrix and had like 7 monitors there and you were monitoring all those feeds, it was really difficult to do. And then you lose that community. Nowadays, though, it's so much easier because you can use tools like Restream that will give you all of those comments. And it's also very easy to bring in guests and do all this kind of stuff. So nowadays, it's a lot easier. If you are starting, though, if you're just starting off, I probably would still recommend just broadcast to one place first. Because even with the easy tools now, it just takes a little bit of time. So you might want to get more work on your confidence in front of the camera and with the technology and all that kind of stuff first, before you then go into the multi-streaming world. But it's so much easier now. And why not? Why not just try and broadcast to all those different channels and see? Because you might be surprised. Yeah,
absolutely. And Jeff, I know that Kim's show is multi-streamed, correct?
Right. Yeah. So for Kim's show, I produce it in the background. So that takes kind of all the button pushing, like Ian was mentioning, kind of off of her, and she can concentrate on the audience and the questions that I pull up. So like Ian said, I would do it, start out with one channel and then add to it, but it is way easier than it's been before. And so, I think you can jump on the multi-stream bandwagon a lot sooner than you could in the past. The only thing that, and the only thing I would look at when you're looking at tools, I always don't ever use a tool that won't let you pull comments up on screen. Because we've had people at Social Media Examiner will actually take a screenshot of us answering their question and posting it on Instagram. And people will wait. If they think they have a chance of actually, getting their question answered, they will wait to the end of the broadcast. And so that's another, keeping them on, having the length of the time viewed is really important. But so I would, make sure you're bringing those comments on screen, because people love to see their avatar on there. And there's no other live video. There's no other way to connect with an audience and with people across the world. And with live video, it's amazing that we can do this. And interacting them with the comments like Rob's doing right now is probably one of the biggest pluses to going live.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Great. There's some other really good questions here. Really curious about, a lot of you have said repurposing, kind of mentioned that word repurposing. So what are some of the ways that you are repurposing your live streams after the show is after the show is done?
Yeah, it's a no-brainer for a podcast, because now with Ian, I know, does that. That's how I started back in the day with the old Manly Pinterest tips. I pulled it and made a podcast, and that's what kind of helped me get going. But so pretty much every show, even Kim, we're recording. We haven't launched yet, but that's right around the corner after this launch, is doing a podcast, because it's so easy to repurpose with the tools you have now, the quality of the recording, all the tools I believe that I recommend allow you to record and then download the audio. It's just really easy to strip it. So for repurposing, it's just a no-brainer, because there's something intimate about being in people's ears. The only caution I would have, so like Tailwind, which is Pinterest and visual marketing, I always remember that we're doing a podcast. So, and Grace and I have done this on our show as well. It's like when we show us something on screen, if somebody's screen sharing, we describe it. We use your words, because you got to remember that there's a podcast audience going there. And so that's the only thing you need to keep in mind if you're going to repurpose. But I just think it's a no-brainer to do it as a podcast. And
edit, right? So we have a service that edits our audio for the podcast. And so if I say the wrong word or there's been times, sorry to throw us under the bus, Jeff, but there's been times when we forgot to do something, or we forgot to do that intro, right? So we'll re-record it, or we'll record it again, or whatever, and we'll just ask the person editing our audio to please insert it here. So you have a lot more flexibility when you're repurposing, though, and you can come off with a more polished look. Another thing that we do is our social team does this, where they would take an audio clip and turn it into audio for a story on Instagram. And it would be a promo. So that would usually happen like Tuesday, or we do the show Friday. So that would usually happen Tuesday, Monday, to draw people back to it and say, hey, in case you missed it, here's this clip. But it's never me, it's never Jeff, it's the guest, right? It's the guest that we're highlighting that we get their audio clip.
That's smart. That's smart. That sounds good. Are any of you getting the guests to record their audio separately on their side? I know I've been asked to do that sometimes. Is that something you guys are doing?
So Guy is just a podcast. He doesn't do live, which I really want him to do because he gets great guests like Jane Goodall and some of these other amazing people. But he uses a service called Squadcast where it actually records both locally on their files and also on his, and so that pieces it together, which makes it really easy for fixing any mistakes. But there are a couple of different ones that allow you to do that on the podcasting side of things.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's something I do. So I use a few different tools. I use Ecamm Live with Restream together, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend. I certainly wouldn't recommend for beginners, but this allows me to multi-stream and bring in the guest and do lots of really cool things that way. But the thing about podcast, the audio is obviously really important. So I'm recording the audio my end for my voice, but I like to get my guests to have their voice recorded their end, and it just makes the quality so much better. So I use a service called Zencaster, and the reason I use Zencaster is, first of all, it's free. If you don't, you have to pay if you want the WAV and a bit more quality. But the MP3 quality is really good. It's very easy to give the guest the link, and they click on that. So I bring them in via Ecamm and Zencaster. Sounds complicated, but it's not. And most of the times it's gone really, really well, and I get a really good quality out of it. And then the other thing is, just remember when you are you're downloading the audio, you could use a service like this Repurpose.io, which is pretty good. It will just strip your Facebook Live, the audio from your Facebook Live, or I'm not sure whether it works with YouTube Live as well. It might do. And then it will turn that into a podcast automatically. But if you can, just spend a bit more time editing. Take the beginning and possibly the end out of your podcast, or little bits where it doesn't make sense. Edit it. Spend a bit more time and money on that, and I think the quality of your podcast will be even better.
That's awesome. There you go. I'll get those links to those tools and share in the chat with everyone. Awesome. My next question here, guys, and please keep sending your questions in. You guys are sort of have your finger on the pulse with what's happening with social and live streaming and videos. I'm curious what your thoughts are with over the next 12 months with live video. Obviously, during lockdown, pandemic, everyone's just jumped on live streaming. There's so many lives happening every single day. What's your thoughts? Who knows, by next year, let's just say things are back. People can travel. People can go back to conferences and stuff. What's your thoughts with live streaming? Where will it fit for different businesses and entrepreneurs and brands that are using it today?
Who do you want to start? I mean, I can start.
Whoever wants to go first.
I think we're not going to totally go back to normal. I mean, hopefully we're going to go back to some kind of normal at some point. Mm-hmm. But I think we're going to go to I think hybrid events are going to be more of a thing. So we'll have real live events, but there will be live streams more because people love traveling, but not everyone loves traveling. And so if you can go to a conference from your home, from the comfort of your home, that's going to be great. So I think we're going to have that. I think multi-streaming is going to become much more of a thing. It's so much easier to use. And particularly, I think services like, Facebook Live and YouTube Live, I think they are going to make it easier for people who aren't so tech savvy or people with visual or hearing impairments to get involved with live video. So I know that something that Facebook Live are doing, they've announced it. I haven't seen it. I don't know whether Grace or Jeff, you've seen this, but they've got the ability coming, hopefully, for people to phone in. So there'll be a phone number that people can phone in to listen to a live video. I don't know whether YouTube Live will do that, but at some point that will be good. And that's going to be cool because, I mean, at the moment I help live stream our church services. And there are people who are in the 70s and 80s who phone in every time to listen. And the way we do that is we get somebody to capture the live stream in Zoom and then phone in. And it's not great. So I think if YouTube and Facebook can make it easier for people who aren't so tech savvy to get involved and consume live video, that's going to be great.
So this is my opinion, and Grace and I covered this, I think, a couple of weeks ago with some of the Facebook stuff, was that one of the things is they're going to make it a lot more seamless to sell stuff. Like I could be talking at a webinar and then in a webinar kind of format and say, by the way, you can buy my course by going to this link. It'll come into Facebook. Now, how much Facebook's going to take of that, that's a whole other story. But I think that kind of stuff is going to be more seamless. But I think live video is here to stay. Like, for the benefits we've all talked about, the ability to build a community, to talk directly with your guests and find out stuff from your customers and leads and clients and all that kind of stuff. But I just don't think it's going away, because think of podcasts. Podcasts have been around forever, and every year it's like, this is the year of the podcast. Every year it's the same thing. This is the year of live video. It's part of our lives now. It allows you to connect with people. Like, Ian will go to a conference and people will recognize him from his live video, and they'll walk up to him and say, "Don't ever talk to me again." No, they'll say, they'll walk up to him and say, "Oh, I love your live show. It's amazing." So so that's what is so cool about live video, is that people you don't even know you're connected with, you are. And so I just see it continue to grow. Now there's going to be a lot of people jumped on the live video bandwagon with lockdown and not really knowing what they've done, and they've kind of got burnt out, or it doesn't work the way they think it should and all that stuff. But like shows like this one and Ian's, and I just think the top ones are going to continue to grow their audience, and people will connect that way.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Grace? Where do you see with the trends with live streaming over the next 12 months?
Well, what I'm seeing with these new products is that a lot of stories just rolled out to LinkedIn, right? Stories that started on Snapchat, right? Made it all the way to LinkedIn. I'm waiting now for Skype stories or something. I don't know, right? Live video rolled out on Facebook, and I remember that was such a big deal. And now we're getting live video on Facebook, or no, sorry, on LinkedIn, right? With live video events, right? Yeah, right. So, and we broadcast on their live as well. So I think that as the sites become a little bit more ubiquitous, they become a little bit same. And we always ask this question is, why do I want to be on here when I have stories over here? Why do I have that? And I think going into the next 12 months, we're going to find that each of the sites are going to start leaning heavy into what is their culture and who is on there, and really defining what that audience is. They're going to have to, right? They have to differentiate somehow. And we already see a little bit of that with Instagram rolling out Reels, which was the competitor to TikTok, right? And so now people are saying, well, TikTok is like this and Instagram is like this. And I think we're going to start leaning more into what is the different culture, what is the different audience, where are people going for different things.
Yeah.
Rob,
yeah.
Can I follow? I just want to follow. I think it's also going to be more important for businesses to have some sort of video presence, because people are going to go to those businesses where they recognize the person, they watch their videos, they know they're knowledgeable, and this can be live video or like a YouTube video. But Grace, I'm blanking on the guy, the plumber out of Dallas. Who has an incredible YouTube channel. He speaks at all the, what's his name? I can't remember his name. Roger Wakefield. Yes. He's amazing. He is amazing. And he's got the whole industry, locked up, but people trust him because he has those videos, and some of them are funny. Some of them are how to, but I just think he's genius in that. So I think more and more live video is going to get ahead of the competition. A plumber is doing this stuff and he's killing it. And so I just think that's going to be kind of the standard moving forward.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Absolutely.
I love that. Those are great. Those great kind of forecasts of things that are happening. I agree with all of that. I think, live streaming will just continue to grow. We've got Scott Aries here. For some reason, his name is not showing up. I think it's because it's inside the private Facebook group. Yeah. We just don't like
Facebook doesn't like him.
Yeah. He says MySpace Stories is coming next.
Yes.
That's awesome. We've got Dole Whip Dad, Roger Wakefield. Awesome. I'm just trying to see here if there's any other questions, but I think this has been a really good session. I'm just trying to see here if there's anything else. But while I do that, what are some just for the TubeBuddy community out there? Most of our community is obviously on YouTube, but also of course using all the other platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and all that. What is a piece of advice that you want to leave off with them as we part ways today? Whoever wants to go first. Everyone's so polite.
We're all so polite. The majority of my job when in producing and co-hosting our live show is preparation. Now, of course, it's a very news focused show. So, we have to get the details, the sources, everything just right. But you could be talking about anything and you'd still need to do that. So I think definitely preparing your guest. A big part of what I do is making sure our guests are comfortable, that they have questions, that they that we're very clear on what the topic is, and we give them a direction. And then I also promise them that we're not going to go off the rails. We're going to help this stay focused. And so I think preparation.
Preparation. Awesome. I like that. Jeff, Ian, whoever wants to go first. Next.
Oh, should we like fight to get in there? I'm gonna go in there.
I'd like to see that fight. That'd be a good fight.
I'm gonna be terribly un-British. So I have like a formula. I called it the five P's of live video, and I think I need this to be consistent. I think consistency is so important. So the 5 P's are: the first thing you need to do is plan, have a process, write it down. So you know what you're going to be talking about in the show. You know what you're going to be talking about in your third or fourth Facebook or YouTube live. Doesn't matter where you're going live. You need to have that. The next thing is pre-promote it. Schedule your live video. You can do this to YouTube. You can do this to Facebook, LinkedIn, LinkedIn live scheduling is coming. That's really important. So let people know that you're going to go live. The next thing is producing the show. So have a structure to your show. Once you've gone live, a lot of people then think, oh, it's time. That's it. I've done all my work. I'm going to go to bed now. But no, this is when the work starts. You've got to post-promote it, make it into a piece of evergreen content, build that community around that. And then the final thing is what we talked about earlier. I'm kind of cheating, but there is a P in this: repurposing your content. So make sure you do all of that.
That's the UK spelling. I can put it. Color or theater. Yeah. So what was the question? What
piece of advice as we
you were talking about fighting Ian, and I was like, man, he fights dirty. I don't want to do that.
We completely just lost Jeff.
I just like, that's scary. I'm just like, I don't know if I'll be able to sleep tonight. So so the piece of advice I would really look hard, once again, is always use the comments. Make your audience the star of the show. But also, I mean, I've been really seeing a lot of good stuff happen over LinkedIn. I mean, Grace mentioned, we'll be talking about it tomorrow on the show, is LinkedIn Stories. But LinkedIn for video, if you're haven't applied for the beta yet for that or getting in, and Rob has some great stuff over there too on LinkedIn. I mean, he was the one I started watching over there first, I think. And getting on that, because there's a really active community on there, and sometimes for businesses, that's almost the perfect platform to be on for a lot of businesses. So I would definitely keep LinkedIn seems to be moving in the right direction, which caught me by surprise. So I think it's very, very cool.
Awesome. Well, I love all those tips. I love the session. I think I'm going to watch and take notes again. Obviously, I was producing in the back here, but I love this. I think live streaming is here to stay. I love what you guys are all doing. I will make sure that I share all of the links. I know Jeff has the challenge, obviously the Social Media Examiner show, and then Ian, also your podcast. Yeah, that's probably the best place to reach you. Awesome. All right, everyone, thank you so much again. This has been really fun. Thank you to the three of you. I know you all have to go. I want to respect your time. So off to the next thing, and I will see you all in the next show.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Take care. Yeah.